Welcome back to another episode of Because It Matters. I'm your host, Digital Debbie. Happy Black History Month, everybody. And this month we will be talking about the neglected topics of our beautiful history. Today's topic, we will be talking about the American Aborigines. There were tribes that were already here. And unfortunately, most people still believe that all blacks came from the ships from Africa. So let's talk about some of those statistics. According to PBS.org, only 12.5 million Africans were kidnapped from Africa, but only 10.7 million actually survived. And of that 10.7 million, 388,000 came to North America, and the rest were distributed to South America and the Caribbean. But the first people that were here were the American Aborigines. According to indigenousandamericans.com, the American Aborigines owned 1 million square miles worth of land in the Louisiana Territory, southeastern region of Florida, and the colony of California. In many areas of America, black nations existed way before Christopher Columbus even arrived. Those lands were rightfully the American Aborigines before they were stolen and given to the white settler. The American Aborigines that were stripped from their land were dumped in Oklahoma. And one of the most historic and sad tragedies was called the Trail of Tears. 40 to 90 Indians were placed there. The point is that the American Aborigines were here, and they were here first. Don't forget to follow Dane Calloway on his YouTube videos on his outstanding and immaculate African American history. If you have any African American history ideas or episodes, questions, or concerns, don't forget to email me at debbie@avistaproducts.com. Thank you for watching another episode of Because It Matters. I'm Digital Debbie, and I'll see you next week. Welcome back to another episode of Because It Matters. I'm your host, Digital Debbie. Happy Black History Month, everybody. And this month we will be talking about the neglected topics of our beautiful history. Today's topic, we will be talking about the American Aborigines. There were tribes that were already here. And unfortunately, most people still believe that all blacks came from the ships from Africa. So let's talk about some of those statistics. According to PBS.org, only 12.5 million Africans were kidnapped from Africa, but only 10.7 million actually survived. And of that 10.7 million, 388,000 came to North America, and the rest were distributed to South America and the Caribbean. But the first people that were here were the American Aborigines. According to indigenousandamericans.com, the American Aborigines owned 1 million square miles worth of land in the Louisiana Territory, southeastern region of Florida, and the colony of California. In many areas of America, black nations existed way before Christopher Columbus even arrived. Those lands were rightfully the American Aborigines before they were stolen and given to the white settler. The American Aborigines that were stripped from their land were dumped in Oklahoma. And one of the most historic and sad tragedies was called the Trail of Tears. 40 to 90 Indians were placed there. The point is that the American Aborigines were here, and they were here first. Don't forget to follow Dane Calloway on his YouTube videos on his outstanding and immaculate African American history. If you have any African American history ideas or episodes, questions, or concerns, don't forget to email me at debbie@avistaproducts.com. Thank you for watching another episode of Because It Matters. I'm Digital Debbie, and I'll see you next week.
Look at these two ones over here. At the beginning of this museum, I was made the information about from the picture, from where they got at the face. Then when we was passing in the other house, you saw those pictures when they found the faces. This is one of the face more beautiful. You can see the lips, the nose, the eyes. This is completely negroid face, and the weight of this face is 25 tons. We're wondering how they carry in that time, from where they carry these rocks, because it's solid. This head they bring from 134 kilometers far from here. Yes.
So it hasn't been moved since, right?
No.
Was that stone quarried where they found it? Or how far did they have to bring the quarry stone?
They say from 100 kilometers far. They call basalt. Basalt.
Modern African says black Americans are not Africans.
People out here, what?
The black people ain't Africans.
The black people out here is not from Africa?
They're not from Africa.
Oh, hold on, where you from?
I'm from Liberia.
From Liberia. And you trying to tell these people that I'm trying to tell them that they're not African.
They're not.
They are already, I don't know why they don't want to hear.
There was black people already here, bro.
Already here, but they want to say.
And it wasn't even Native American, bro. It was just dark.
Right.
Here. But black people's not from Africa.
Black people is not from Africa.
Yeah, and anybody who said they're from Africa, bro, that's some dumb. Africans don't even people from here, bro.
Now you know it's bad when Africans have to tell you that you're not African. Somebody should have said this about the Roots movie a long time ago.
Still got roots. People thinking that roots has something to do with history when the man says a novel. People naming their children Kente Conte and Conte Kente and all kind of thing now. But these people,
You take issue with that? You find something
yeah,
wrong with that?
it's garbage. It has nothing to do with history.
Are you calling
It's
Roots,
a novel.
Roots, the most popular television show in the history
Amos
of
and
this
Andy
country?
was the most popular radio show. And it had nothing to do with black people. It were two white Jews. You know, I've told you, the worst part of our enslavement is not the shackle on the hand, it's the shackle on the mind.
The movie was a novel and one of the main reasons we bought into this out of Africa theory. Check out how indigenous Americans brought tobacco to Europe.
When you study about American Indians, they should know that the Indians were addicted to nicotine before Columbus landed, and when the early explorers took Indians back to London to exhibit, the Indians insisted on taking along not only their supply of tobacco, but seeds that they could plant so that they could grow more tobacco while they were in England. This is how smoking got started in Europe.
So indigenous Americans brought and started tobacco smoking all throughout Europe. This is the reason you can't find Indian on certain genealogical records.
So if you were Native American at one point in time in history, you wanted to hide that fact just simply for survival reasons. I'm a parent. I am raising Native American children. If their physical being could pass for black or white, then for their safety's sake, I would put down on their birth certificate black or white. And that happened throughout history for a number of years.
Our ancestors changed their race from Indian to other races because at one point it was too dangerous to even be an Indian.
Evidence has surfaced and continually grown to indicate that many of these pre-Columbian explorers might have come from Africa. So the first scientist to promote this possibility was Leo Wiener. Born in Russia, Wiener immigrated to the United States in the late 19th century on his way to British Honduras, where he planned to open a vegetarian commune. Well, when that turned out not to be the dream job he expected, he moved back to the United States and he became a professor at Harvard University, as one does. But in his time in Mesoamerica, he started noticing things. There were lots of things that led him to encounter certain discoveries that made him consider that possibly if the origins of American civilization might actually be in Africa. So he observed so many linguistic and botanical and other similarities that between 1920 and 1922, he published an extensive 3-volume piece called Africa and the Discovery of America. Now, unfortunately, this is the 1920s, so as yet, no serious archaeological evidence had been done to, or work had been done to support his botanical theories, because everyone was over raiding tombs in Egypt and things like that. Nod to Howard Carter. So he didn't have a whole lot of other stuff than the names to support him. However, he knew that other clues must exist. For example, he pointed out that Columbus himself was aware that African mariners had preceded him. In his diary of his second voyage, Columbus tells of how the natives of Hispaniola actually had given him gold-tipped metal spearheads that they said were brought by black-skinned people who had come in large boats from the south and southeast. Coincidence? I think not. No. So what's interesting about that, so upon returning to Spain, is that he actually took the spearheads and he sent them away and they had them assayed, and it turned out to be that these spearheads were covered in this metal, this alloy that the inhabitants called guanin, and the metallurgists actually found out that this was an alloy of 32 parts. It was like 18 of gold, 6 of silver, 8 of copper, which, dun dun dun, matched the metal used in spearheads made in Western Africa for thousands of years, as carried by medieval African warriors, including the Mali and the Moors. The West Africans even called this metal guanine, the same name used by the natives of Hispaniola. But nothing more was said about that. Conspiracy. Well, probably because, in the interest of Spain,
I see of blacks a long time ago. But now, we're going extinct. All these businesses, there's no blacks working. It's all Mayans. My culture is totally going
gone.
Kaput. We're trying to save little bit. I'm a leader here.
Oh yeah.
I'm Philip Flores. If you look in the internet and the books, I'm in the Lonely Planet, the Rock Guy.
Oh really?
Yeah man, we're fighting to save much of what is left of Garifuna. They use Garifuna to pull tourists. But when you read all the books, everything, when you go Livingston, you will see a different culture, a whole different anomaly. That is used, we're just being used as a puller.
But not.
But when you get here, you say to yourself, where are they? Because we don't exist. It's like we're non-existent. When you guys come, the first thing they pull you on that side to the foreign hotels. So you support them.
Right.
But they're not in cahoots with us to say, oh man, you guys should go see the Garifuna. They're selling you waterfalls. They're selling you white beach. They're selling you their product. They don't include us. We are totally out of it. Right now, we're fighting to save the educative system, the Garifuna language, the Garifuna way of doing things. Our cuisine, our art, our culture is totally not here. This is all Chinese. So you come here to see Garifuna.
Yeah.
Very interesting. What do you know about Garifuna?
I know a little bit about the language.
What is the language?
Garif. But I'm trying to find just some speakers that can talk about the language like you are right now. And
the language has totally gone kaput. That language there is very little left with the language. We're more speaking French.
More French.
The Garifuna is French. When the French
the numbers, right?
The numbers, the weekdays, lundi, mardi, jeudi, mercredi, vendredi, samedi. Most of the words, window, fenêtre, à midi. The names of the animals, the French was a higher language at that time, so so the people aspired to become to speak French. So most of the French, when they help us out in the war against the British, I would say, Magalite, okay, where are you? Malapu tuabu? No, es que that language is a mixture of French and Arawak.
Right.
The Arawak.
And Carib, right? A little Carib.
Why Carib?
I think, were they like mixing with the islanders? Is that it?
Who are the Carib?
They're from South America, right? Or like the Guyanas.
Yeah. Well, who are they?
I'm not sure.
You have to do your history, friend.
Yeah.
Where do you think the black people here come from?
I don't, I'm not sure. It's either like slave ship or they came from Africa, right? What do you think?
We've never been African.
Never?
We've never been African.
They don't really say on...
We're not really Africans. We are the Caribs.
Right.
We are the Caribs. Our ancestors are the Caribs. We man this, we control this, we inhabited this. Yeah. The sea was named for us, the Caribbean. We are the Caribs. The Africans came after, they came around the Cape Horn. They had, coming from Africa, they had to come to 5 different seas to come into around the Cape Horn in Brazil.
Right.
The Africans you find, Jamaica, African, Cuba, African, Haiti, African. But they don't speak, they can't speak Carib nor Garifuna, they don't speak Arawak. They speak Patois.
Creoles and Patois.
They do Patois. You know, that's a whole different, that's a mixed Creole. A mix of African and English. Instead of saying where you're going, they say where you're going. Instead of saying come here, they say Koya. Who is there? Who did they? That's a Creole. That are the African.
Right.
Right? My language is completely different from that.
Yeah, it's Arawak.
You know, the Jamaica, when you're hearing people say Ayasata Masagana, that's a whole complete different language.
Completely.
They have to adhere to the white man's language. They be whipped. So in order to get that whip away from, I have to try and understand you.
It makes sense.
I'm the historian.
I like it.
It's by fluke we met, but you have internet?
Yeah, we do.
Look at Google Philip Flores.
Philip Flores, is that?
Yeah, Google, just look. My name is PHILIP FLORES of Livingston. Of Livingston. Look for it.
How many people speak Garifuna here?
We're only 12,000 here.
12,000. And do all of them speak, or is it?
We're fighting to teach that right now.
Right.
Let me? I'll be right there.
Awesome.
I don't lie, Sam. I won't lie to you because this is why I deal with truth.
Yeah.
Everything there is I've been there. It's a lot of people put me in blogs there. I just before I went to Germany on a symposium, I'm in those things there because we hold symposium about.
You do some speaking? Yeah. You do some speeches?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He has a YouTube channel, TJ. His name's TJ. It's called the Planet Project, and the purpose of the channel is to identify cultures and languages like yours that are at risk or endangered, and to.
Well, this is really at risk and.
Ay, guys, I'm dying from hanging. Let's try here. This is my first meal here in Livingston. as you can see, proper chicken with rice.
Una idea.
De Julio.
De Julio, el papá de Enrique.
Mira, Marco Vinicio, si tú sigues cantando así, teniendo mucho trabajo.
Guys, this is Julio Iglesias, the father of Enrique Iglesias. And they say, back in the 70s, they made the video clip of Iglesias here, in Livingston. Es verdad, ¿no?
Quiero enseñarte un camino en el mar.
From Spain, he came here just for the video clip. That's insane.
Instead of talking about their culture, they're taking them to the tourist places.
Who?
The kids that take the tourists.
Ah, the guides.
Yeah, they're taking them not to their culture. They're giving them money because this way we live divided. The blacks live that way. The foreigners built their hotels in that end.
Ah, so this is where the local lives?
The locals live, but they're not talking about come see us.
Why?
They're giving the credence to the foreigner. And they build their casa iguana, casa rosada, casa this. That's all gringo. So the kids are not selling
the real Livingston, which is there.
the real Livingston. This is the only place where blacks live.
Black people only here in Livingston.
Only here in Guatemala. This is unique.
So only here there are black people, only here?
Only here in Guatemala.
Aquí no Maya, nothing.
No, Mayas came here before.
So what's the story of this place, the story?
Let me tell you the story because I am a historian here. I am 69 years old.
Historian?
I'm a historian here. I'm in all the internet, all the books.
Really?
I'm Philip Flores.
So what happened in this place, the history?
The history here was the blacks was here first. When the Civil War in Guatemala, all the Mayans come running here because this was safe.
So black people came here first, from Africa?
Yeah, no, we're not Africa. We're not Africa.
Jamaica? No.
Neither. Jamaicans are Africa. Jamaica, Cuba,
Africans.
Haiti, they're Africa. We are Caribs. The Caribbean Sea was named for us.
Really? I have no idea about that.
But I am telling you because so you know. We are Caribs. My identity here is Garifuna. It's the only place where you find Garifuna in this hemisphere.
So you don't have DNA from Africa, nothing. Everything is from Caribbean.
When the Africans jump ship, when they come around the Cape Horn, some of them jump ship, but they couldn't run to the Inca, the skin.
The skin.
So they couldn't run to the Maya. The skin is different. The only people that look closely like them was us, the Caribs, and they came and mixed with us.
Ah, so you were here first, the black people were here, and then they mixed with the Africans because the Mayas and they didn't like them.
No, they couldn't mix. You see, if a slave ship come and they see a black within the Maya, they know he was a runaway.
They know he ran away from the Spanish.
From the ship.
But here you mix and you're one of them. So you protect all the slaves?
Complete.
Really?
They live with us, we inhabit some of their traits, we inhabit some of what they do, and we live because they were bigger, so they help us fight.
Mayans?
No, fight the British and the French.
Ah, so here you were fighting the British and the French?
Exactly.
Ah, man, no tenía ninguna idea.
No, man, I could teach you about this.
Guys, that's insane, man.
If you have internet, you could touch the internet. I appear in the internet.
Everywhere?
Everywhere.
What's your name?
Philip Flores.
Philip Flores?
Yeah, man.
Guys, that's insane.
Original name of here is La Buga.
La Buga, no Livingston.
Livingston is
from
later
British.
applied, but the name here originally is La Buga. You come to a unique culture, bruh.
So it's unique in the whole world, no?
It's unique. Our system, the way, our food, our music, everything is completely.
Reggaeton no. There's no reggaeton aquí.
Huh?
No reggaeton aquí. Reggaeton no.
No reggaeton. Our music here is punta.
Punta is your music.
Punta rock. Yeah.
Samba?
Punta rock.
Punta rock.
Yeah. We have our own musical identity here.
So if I come tomorrow here, maybe I see you.
Yeah, you see that.
Felipe Flores. Felipe Flores. Gracias, amigo. Gracias.
It's a whole lot of things since you're traveling and doing.
That's insane. Insane story.
It you to learn about what's here. But these guys cannot teach you. They don't expound on their culture.
So what they do, those guias, if I go with them?
They take you to the foreign hotel. This is what they're selling you.
The hotel for the gringos.
Yeah. This is what they're selling you. The gringos pay them $5 or $10 for taking you there. This is what they're selling you. They're not talking about their
culture.
But take your time. We could meet tomorrow here and talk.
But is this racism between the black and the Mayas?
Economic racism.
But not against the race, only economic.
No, it's economic.
They make more money. Really?
They're the one who owns the businesses. But I gotta get out of here. I'm going to play dominoes.
Mañana voy a venir aquí. Si te veo, vamos una vuelta.
Yeah, look for me.
Sí. Gracias, bro.
What's your name?
Tim.
Timothy. Yeah, man.
Ciao, man. Guys, after this introduction, I don't have to say to you anything about this place. You got all the informations. This is the only place in Guatemala that black people live. That's why I wanted to come here and show you. But now Mr. Felipe said everything, so I think it's way better him to tell you what's happening here than me, just a random guy. Tomorrow we're gonna explore more, but for now, let's enjoy the fried chicken, which is very, very good. Guys, this cost $2. Hola amigo, ¿cómo estás? Bien. Gracias. Guys, $2. That's insane. After I finish my meal, as a typical Greek guy, I need my coffee. So I just ordered a coffee here in the Comedor de Annie, the Mari, sorry. And look what they gave me. A glass of
which I'm sure it depicts things that most people in this region would be familiar with, which is the massacre of the Pequot in 1937 in Connecticut. This is one of the beginnings of a massive deportation of Native American people from New England to the Caribbean. So it then posits another question: where did these people go? They go to everywhere in the Caribbean. They go to the Bahamas, they go to Barbados, they go to Jamaica. So when I was a child, probably like many of you who are at least my age or older, we were always taught the Indians, the Native Americans, are largely disappeared. I have there a quote from Herman Melville, the book that we all had to read in school, Moby Dick, where he says, you know, the name of the boat, the ship is the Pequot, first of all, and we don't even know why it's the Pequot when we're reading it. But he says, you will no doubt remember the Pequot was the name of a celebrated tribe of Massachusetts Indians now extinct as the ancient Medes. So he's writing this in 1851, but these supposedly extinct people, many of them are not just still here in New England, but are also in the Caribbean. And in fact, one of the things that was most astonishing to me in trying to do the research of Black people and Native Americans side by side in this question of slavery is an intra-American slave trade that went on in the Caribbean, a waterborne traffic. They didn't cross the Atlantic but was going around in the Caribbean, was a very, very large flow of slavery. The estimate now is that over a period of 400 years, more than 2.5 million native persons, many of them from New England, were in slavery in the Caribbean. This is besides the Taino who lived there. This is another set. And this saltwater trade expelled them all over the Caribbean, to Little Bonaire and Curacao, to the many small Lucayas, to Hispaniola, and to Puerto Rico. In fact, one study done by Resendez, which is called The Other Slavery, is that in the period between 1670 and 1720, from the Carolinas, South Carolina in particular, more Indians were exported out of Charleston, South Carolina, than Africans were imported into Charleston, South Carolina. So one of the chief things that I've been doing in trying to do research about botanical knowledge in the Caribbean is looking at this question of Black people and Native Americans, or enslaved Africans and enslaved Native Americans, living side by side during a period when we were told, at least when I was in school, that all these people had disappeared. So you get, for example, the famous work by Hans Sloane in Jamaica. And if you read the archive, if you read the original, which many of these originals are in Brown's JCB library, you get this understanding that these supposedly disappeared Indians and these enslaved Africans are actually living side by side for quite some time in many of the Caribbean countries. This is a quote just from Jamaica, from the Natural History of Jamaica done by one Hans Sloane, in which he talks over and over again about the Indians and the Negroes, the Indians and the Negroes, even Indian and Negro doctors, and the diseases that they were able to cure using plants that were natural to Jamaica. And deep inside the book, the Hans Sloane book, is an account of a Lucaya, which is the other name for the Bahamas, a Lucaya couple enslaved in Hispaniola, and how they tried to get away. And then they returned to slavery. So you have to ask yourself, we all learn in school about how Native Americans disappeared in the United States, supposedly, how they disappeared as well in the Caribbean, but they show up over and over again in these natural histories. So one of the things that also shows up in these old colonial histories is a question of Native American revolt, enslaved African revolt, and how afraid the colonists up and down the East Coast and down into the Caribbean were of this revolt. So in 1502, you get one of the earliest ones where the Spanish governor of Hispaniola asks the King of Spain, essentially he just says, please don't send me any more of these African slaves. Let's have a moratorium, because they run away to the mountains of Hispaniola, which today is Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and they don't come back. And furthermore, they pair up with the Native Americans who are the Taino who are fleeing, and we don't know what's going on up in the mountains, but it's dangerous, so let's just have a moratorium. You move to 1676, and this is from a study done by Professor Linford. Yeah, where are you? I think he's here somewhere. Exactly. One of his early studies, because he continues to do this work. Dangerous Designs, the 1676 Barbados Act to prohibit New England Indian slave importation. They were by now very, very afraid of these Native Americans. It's a question of Native American revolt, enslaved African revolt, and how afraid the colonists up and down the East Coast and down into the Caribbean were of this revolt. So in 1502, you get one of the earliest ones where the Spanish governor of Hispaniola asks the King of Spain, essentially he just says, please don't send me any more of these African slaves. Let's have a moratorium, because they run away to the mountains of Hispaniola, which today is Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and they don't come back. And furthermore, they pair up with the Native Americans who are the Taino who are fleeing, and we don't know what's going on up in the mountains, but it's dangerous, so let's just have a moratorium. You move to 1676, and this is from a study done by Professor Linford. Yeah, where are you? I think he's here somewhere. Exactly. One of his early studies, because he continues to do this work. Dangerous Designs, the 1676 Barbados Act to prohibit New England Indian slave importation. They were by now very, very afraid of these Native Americans who had revolted and who almost won the war in this region. And so several thousands of them are deported. And the governor down in Barbados says that, you know, he really doesn't want any more of these. Many of them are already there, but he says he really doesn't want any more of these because it's like a contagion to have them. These Native American uprisings that are taking place in Virginia and Maryland and New York, and now these people are deported or sold down into the Caribbean and causing trouble. This happens over and over again in the Caribbean. The quote at the bottom is from a famous Caribbean poet and historian, Kamal Brathwaite, and he writes a poem about, just part of it, is about the Maroon Coast in Barbados, which many people think, oh, there weren't any Native Americans left there. And he writes about the ones that got away, the ones that found a settlement somewhere on the coast, which they call the Maroon Coast of Barbados. And he talks about how they got away and how important it is that they found their freedom. Done something wrong. Yes. So the reason why this is called Native Revolt, Black Revolt, and Colonial Fears is that this question of Native Americans and not yet African Americans, but enslaved Africans joining together in possible revolt was one of the biggest fears of colonial times. Finally, I want to talk about briefly about, how shall I call this? By then, this is a question of a cultural resistance, is basically what we're left with in the New England area. And this woman, usually you get to see histories about, what's the name? Cuffey? Paul Cuffey, yes. So I thought I would use a woman instead of Paul Cuffey because he's fairly well known. This lady is called Olivia Ward Bush, and she was both Native American and African American, and she writes a very famous poem, at least famous in the time, in 1898 in Newport, called Driftwood. And although it's a fairly sad seeming poem, it's actually a poem about resistance. It's actually a poem about the fact that, like Driftwood, the Native Americans, who by then are very much mixed in this area of New England with African Americans, still managed to endure. And in the final part, she says that with their lives, some poor misshapen remnant still survives of what was once a fair and beauteous form, and yet some dwelling may be more bright. Someone afar may catch a gleam of light after the fury of the blighting storm. This poem is actually a poem about resilience of Native Americans in this New England region. So I want to close with that. It closed with something else, but I didn't bring it with me, which is a weaving, a carving that the Narragansett have kept for a long time, a weaving, which is about the dispersal of the Narragansett through the Caribbean, because I think that also speaks to a kind of history that we want to understand more. So, in conclusion, I want to close with what I hope that some of what I've sketched tonight leads us to think about. The kinds of projects